Now let's jump into semantic elements, and one of the more meaningful parts of creating a website with HTML is marking it up in a meaningful way. It will pose constant challenges to you as you build it out, especially if you're doing it by piece, and like you're building your website, your web application, or whatever you're building. It will become like, oh, what do I use here? What do I use here? What do I use here? So just use whatever feels right, which is probably the div tag and the p tag and the span tag. That probably is most likely the easiest thing that you're going to do along the way. But when you go back, or if you're doing it for a client, or if you really want to do a good job, like you really want to build a good house, then you would use semantic markup to build with, right? So semantic elements provide meaning to the structure and the content. So they would provide meaning to the structure of the content. So it's like slightly different than something that's like, you know, an image tag, which is like, hey, this is an image, this is an element, or an H1. Whereas this is saying like, hey, this is a grouping of content, or this is a type of, it's mostly just grouping of content, really, actually, I think about it. So like, for instance, like we have the header tag. This is for the introductory content usually, or the top of a website, or pop up and it's just the top little banner part of it. Like, you know, like it could be anywhere at the top. Doesn't even have to be. It's entirely up to you. But it wouldn't be very semantic if it was used as the footer, right? So you could. There's nothing stopping you. The web browser doesn't even notice that you would do it or wouldn't do it. It just wouldn't make sense, right? So you would use it at the top, and then there's navigation, which is just nav tag as well. Then we have a section, which is for a thematic grouping of content. And we have article for a self-contained content, which would be like a blog post. We're going to combine these, and they can be combined in any which way that you want. And I'm not covering all of them, by the way, in this video. We're just covering a few of them. So the footer tag is for like the footer content, your copyright, your links, and all that stuff. But it could be for, like, say you have a pop-up. It could be for the buttons like the cancel and save. That could be inside of a footer tag. And then we have the aside, which is usually for a sidebar, but it could be also for a quote or some kind of like a sidebar aside when you have like a long blog post, and it could just be like, you know, a thought, you know, quote that's off to the side. That could be a good relevant use case, but usually we'll use it for a sidebar. So this was a section of a thematic content. So this could be like a pop-up, any kind of, like, this could be the full website itself. So this could be for a pop-up, or this could be for the full website itself. So we have a section, we have the header, the navigation, the aside. So we have the section, and then we're going to have the grouping of the header and the navigation, because usually these are together, but they're not wrapped in the same kind of like nested thing. But I usually think of them as like together, even if I had a pop-up, or even on a sales page, I can think of how I would use these together. But you can use these in any order. These could be all div tags. Again, this is all about like being crafty and thinking about the semantic meaning of your content. But this is optional. I just want to make sure that, like, you know, you might use these, you might not, but that's the main message, I guess, I want to say, is that it's optional. But we have the aside and the article, which would be the sidebar and the blog post or whatever, and then the footer. So it's very simple, but it's beautiful when we have these all put together. Imagine when we had the figure and the figure caption, plus, like, you know, all these different other ones, and you would have a document that you could almost read just plain text and go, oh, okay, I can think about what this is going to be like, or I know what the presentation of this is supposed to be. It's almost a blueprint, a well-defined blueprint of what is actually there, versus just thrown together text and go, well, when we add CSS, it makes sense, you know, whereas without CSS, we can at least understand. And that is it. That is semantic elements. So thank you very much for watching.